If you want to be able to build this in Planet Zoo, then stick with me with my updated 2022 7-episode tutorial series. In this series, we are going to cover the basic controls, landscaping, pathing, barriers, building, foliage, and enrichment. And since many things have changed since 2019, when my last tutorial have been online, here's a brand new series you can build along. The park is available to download, but now let's begin. Welcome to the second episode of my 2022 tutorial. Now today we're going to do landscaping, and landscaping is something very important, and we are going to prepare for the build which we're going to do in the next couple of episodes. And what I want to do, I want to have a very nice little lake area in which we have got a habitat that uses the lake and also a little bit of foliage. We're gonna have like a little bit of a mountain in the background to have like a natural border, so just to use the tools as our friends, so to say. Now, first things first, the terrain mode is down in the bottom part over here, and if you toggle that one, you get a couple of things. So if you have paid attention in the last episode, I didn't delve too much into this toggle other than saying that, because there is so much in which we're going to look in detail in today that I didn't show that last episode in the first one. But if you need help with the basic controls, I highly recommend to watch episode number 1 of the tutorial. But now, without further ado, let's start. So, sculpting is available over here. So you've got different tools. You've got the pull tool, you've got the push tool, you've got the flattened foundation, the flattened surface, you've got the chisel tool, you've got the smooth tool, you've got the roughen tool, and a wonderful flattened Tetras. And I'm going to show you the tools first of all before we are going to do what we actually want to do. Now, so on the left hand side, you choose what kind of tool you want to use. On the right hand side, you can basically adjust the tool, so how intense it should be and how big it should be. So we are going to go with 4 meter in size and also with an intensity of like 80%. I think that's kind of fine. Now, the pull tool does actually, let me just show you. Okay, so the pull tool does what you actually expect it to do. It pulls the terrain up. The push tool does exactly what you expect. It pulls the terrain down. The flatten to foundation tool does actually do one thing. It flattens the foundation to exactly where you point your mouse cursor. I don't know if you see that, but in the middle there's like a little arrow to that, a little brush. And if you click on that, it's gonna flatten everything to exactly that height. Now, really cool. That's really cool, isn't it? Now, if you want to flatten to a certain surface, you will see now that this little outline is kind of tilting, you know, in relation to where you move your mouse. Going back to the flatten to surface, you see that it always stays basically flat. But if you say the flatten to surface, it'll always tilt according to the terrain, and that is also the angle that it's gonna make the terrain flatten then. So if I'm going to go here, I'm gonna have like a subtle little incline. I'm holding it down here, and now you can see it's creating that incline for me because I just basically kind of, you know, made it from this specific angle. Now down here you've got a little chisel tool. It does exactly what a chisel should do. You can just, you know, kind of make certain forms by chiseling it as you would do in real life, like for example with clay. So pretty easy, and it can help you make some mountain shapes really nice. But if this becomes too pointy for you, as this just became, you can use the smooth tool, because the smooth tool does again exactly what you expect it to do. It smoothes out whatever you've done. But as you've seen, beware, this is very powerful. Now, also, really cool info, you can use redo and undo with terrain as well, but there is a little bit of a caveat to it, and that is that redo and undo only normally has around 65 steps. So if you put down 65 pieces, you can exactly undo these 65 pieces. But if you do terrain, there's not a really good measurement to that. It's kind of a little feeling, and it seems like you can't really undo that much. So I couldn't even undo the entire thing. So make sure whatever you do, you make sure to use undo and redo very nicely to help you out with certain things that you did wrong. Now again, my mistake was to use the smooth tool a little bit too harsh, so we're going to drop this down all the way to 20, and now if you smooth that, you can see it's not going to, you know, delete your mountain right away, but it's going to smooth out the sharp edges. The same goes for here to these outlines. You can just always, you know, make that all look a bit more natural, a bit more nice, and there you go. It's very nice. And if you don't like things being very smooth, then you can make things rough with this tool over here. If you use that one, you just hold, and it kind of on a random basis makes your terrain more scattered and, you know, a bit more rough and rocky and whatnot. So this is very useful if you want to make an organic looking habitat which has different height elevations and stuff. You can use that, and then from there you could just start and do your own version of whatever you want to do with it. So pretty simple. But there's one more tool, and that is the Flattened Tetras tool. That's the latest tool we got with the Wetlands pack. And what this tool does is pretty simple. I've got a tutorial on that one solely if you want to see that. But just pretty simply put, it always creates a certain step from the location where you click. So if you choose this one and we say the terrace height should be 2 meters, it's going to create a 2 meter terrace from that station over here. And you can see the terrace is here to the right hand side. So this is where it created the terrace. So you can see if I move over with my mouse, it just creates this very straight kind of thing. So this over here is exactly 2 meters. Now, I actually did a shallow pool offset, which is basically if you put water in here, you're going to have exactly this. You can see there is a very slight offset over here, and this is exactly the height you need to make animals go for a little bath in this water. So once you have animals that do have a bathing behavior, they will go in and use that as a little bath. If you don't do this, and if you go back to your tool and you say, you know what, I don't want this offset, you can do this again, but then it just kind of creates a different terrace for you because it doesn't create this offset anymore. And now if I go down here, the water will be exactly to the edge, and there is not really the kind of shallow pool you had. The same happened over here, as you can see, so it creates always a sharp edge. I thought this is not going to be very helpful, but it sometimes creates very interesting shapes of a little lake that you couldn't do. It almost looks like in Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. So sometimes this helps to have some very nice sharp edges, and there you can also sometimes put the path a little bit more easy out. So test yourself in the usage of that tool. It's very helpful. Now, you've seen already one more tool, and before we go to the two middle ones, there is the water tool. Now, the water tool in this game is fairly simple. You just click on calm water or rough water. These are the only two options you have. And if you click on one of those two, it is going to bring up this little arrow with this little droplet. And once the outline you're pointing at is becoming blue, this means you can put the water in. And you can always move alongside the outline so you know exactly where your shoreline would be, or the lakeside, or whatever you want to call that. And then you just click and it automatically fills this area with water. You can see by the little wave icons, or kind of icons, by the wave texture, that this is rough water. If we undo this and do that again, you can see there's a lot less waviness over here. Very nice. If you go underwater, by the way, the shader changes. You can have this underwater shader go out. Same thing went back. Now, a couple of things to know. If you have put water in, basically everything you want to do with the terrain is locked. So if I do whatever I want over here, nothing happens because the water basically hard blocks everything that happens. If you go a little bit further away, all of a sudden it's going to start working again. But the closer you go to the water, you can see there's even a harsh edge now being created because that's where the water is. So you can't edit around the water in a radius of around 4 meters. Just keep that in mind, because that means you will always have to do all your terrain work before you actually put the water in. If you want to get the water out, you can just do so. Or if you want to recolor the water, you can just select the water over here. Boom. And then you get some options. You can change the transparency, make it very muddy. And you can also change the water color, make it lava. If you want, you can make it that just a lake out of blood. Or you can make it very azure if we want to do that. Or like so. Let's just bluish, and then let's say transparency goes some higher. We can have some bubbles and some mist. Or you can also have some previews. You know, there are some presets over here, tropical and crystal and a couple of things, midnight, really cool stuff. It is a lot of fun to play around with these ones. They did a couple of those, but they are like really good ones in here. I quite like the Azure one. This is one of my favorite ones for like habitats. It's having this really nice punch to it. So you can really change a lot with these tools, but you can also change a lot of textures with the painting tool. With the painting tool, you can change the ground texture, everything that you want. You've got sand, you've got different type of sand, you've got soil, you've got a different type of soil, you've got rock, and you've got different type of rock, and you've got also grass and you've got different type of grass, you get the idea. And the cool bit is these things blend in depending on how strong the intensity is, and I always recommend to at least have it at 60, not higher, because then you can still blend in things nicely. You can just, you know, create certain things like that. It just really feels natural if you do, you know, merge things together, and sometimes it's then very helpful to drag it down even further, and then you get some more things into a texture if you want. So you can just really look at that. It just really looks so much different now with this kind of grass area over here, because you've merged certain textures together. I really like this, but this is not all. There is one last thing to do, and this is the terrain stamp tool. Now the terrain stamp tool is super helpful, because with that one you can just stamp, boom, terrain wherever you want. So that's really helpful. There's really not much more to say about that. So you've got the terrain tool, you've got different types of shapes, so for example like that. But one thing that you should really keep in mind is that this is something where you can build mountains a lot faster. So in case you are still kind of pushing your soil up and down, don't do that. Use the stamp tool and then just kind of build from there. I'm actually going to show you how to use the stamp tool now, because we're now actually preparing our habitat for next time. So first things first, we need to get rid of everything we've done over here. The easiest thing is to do flatten to terrain. Just go and maximize both options and then just flatten that down, and look at that, we've got a clean canvas again. Now I want to build the habitat somewhere over here, and as I said, I want to have like a nice little island in the middle. I want to have like a little ditch in front of it, which looks very natural, and then I want to have like a very nice looking backside on which we are going to have some kind of mountain-ish style. So we're going to do the push tool first, move the size a lot down and also not too crazy big. Gonna go 4, and I'm just going to push this down a little. So this is where my ditch is going, okay? So I'm not going to do this too precise now, just like a little bit. So this is where the ditch should be, kind of a nice little ditch, and then we can just bring this all the way back, and this is where I want to have my natural border then. But this is kind of our half island in the front. Now, what we're going to do now is, because this is a zoo and mostly this is going to be straight, we're going to use the flattened foundation, but I'm just going to lower that down to 3, because otherwise it's going to be too wide. And now I'm going to just push that through so everything has the same height. I like to have this left-hand side here like a little bit undercut. As you can see over here, this gets this a little bit more natural look in, you know, and I want to have a little bit of a flattened to terrace to the other side to have the water just be over the side a little bit. I'm sorry that this didn't work. So there you go. This is the 2-meter terrace I wanted to go. Now I know that this height over here exactly is where the water will be. Now if I go with the water, you can see it's actually on this edge. Oh wait, I think I did mess up the tool, right? Did I? Oh yes, look at that. I didn't use the shallow pool. Now there's the shallow pool. I'm sorry, that was my mistake. So there you can see there is this little shallow pool over here. Now the reason why I'm that doing is because I want to get a very nice transition into this lower area in. And this is something I'm going to do now with the flatten to foundation tool. Because as I do know now that this is exactly the height I need, I can just lower this all the way I want to. So very much like this. And then I do the same over here, like so. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the push tool, make that a little bigger and a little bit less powerful, and I'm just going to push this down a little here, just so that the edge is not as crazy. Just going to do it that way, just like so, to make it more natural looking, like so. Yeah, the back is not really too nice. So I'm just going to push this all down a little bit more. And now if I put the water in just as a little test, you can see it's still a little bit too much, but it's already getting that natural shape I want to have. Now undo the same thing again. And now what I do is I'm going to go with the smooth tool in, but this time I'm going to make it smaller but more powerful, because I want to have this upper edge here really go in like this. There you go. Now that there is barely any kind of connection visible, because it should be very natural, and I'm doing the same thing down here to make that all a lot more natural, like this. Okay, now this is done. Let's test the water again. And oh yeah, look at that. We've got a very, very nice shallow edge to the water, which looks super realistic. And it has this very nice shallow area going down. One more thing I want to do to make this lower area a little bit more interesting looking. I'm going to go here and use the pull tool. And I'm going to do it very much the highest intensity and go down to 2. Now the reason I'm doing this is I'm just going to create these little things as you always see them sometimes in like kind of mountains and stuff, because it never is like this, you know, this flat and nice looking ever anyways. And so the reason why I'm doing that is I'm just going to draw these things out and go back to the smooth tool, make that one bigger but a lot less powerful, and then just click until you got rid of these ugly edges, because these ugly edges are sometimes annoying, just like these ones here. Just click until they are gone. There you go. Just click, 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 click. And then I'm just going to paint this all with a little bit more rock. So just like so. There's some rock in. I don't know if the auto paint is turned on, so I'm just going to put the water in first. There you go. It had some auto paint going on, so I'm just going to change the texture now, because I want to have some more soil here to the side. There you go. Just making the soil go in here and in the water part as well. Just very nice. Making that look a lot more clean. And then what we can also do is to blend in the grass. We can make the grass a bit more powerful. So it looks a lot better if we blend that into the side. Very nice indeed. There you go. There you go. Nice. And on this side it all looks good to me, but I want to have the heavy soil to the lower side, just like so, because I think this will look a lot better with the undercut, so like this. And I don't want to have rock on top, I want to have some coarse sand. I'm just going to paint the sand over here like so, just as it would be in real life. Just click some things in the middle. That's just doing the trick. And then I'm go back to grass, but I lower actually the intensity quite dramatically. And then I click back in the grass. So as if this is to the, you know, to the edge is going to be a little bit more weathered. And in the middle, you can press a little bit harder to just have it nice looking like so. Very much. And if you want to have it a bit stronger, you can do so as well. And in the center, we are even going to have long grass. And there you go. There you go. This is how you build that area. I think it's looking fairly decent. There's like a little ugly edge I don't like. Now, if you do undo the water and you don't want to change the texture all of the times again, also I'm just going to again use the same trick by smoothing this until I'm happy. You can also use selected, nope, sampled. This will always use the texture you used over there. That was my mistake. Just bringing back in what I had. Just making it like that, looks better. But if you put back the water, you also go to sampled and not auto paint, because this is always keeping what you've done. So there you go. It didn't change the texture again on its own. Very helpful if you haven't already finished your stuff. Now the last thing I wanted to do is like a natural barrier here in the back using the stamp tool. Now first of all, I'm just going to get rid of the water real quick so I can bring the stamp tool in, and I'm going to use this cylinder. I haven't used it so far, so I just want to use it. So I'm going to increase the height a little, but I'm going to reduce this a little bit more. And now I'm just going to search myself a good spot. This looks good. And now I'm just going to, you know, make it that way. Just make myself a little wall I like to use. That looks already pretty good to me. Now I'm going to make this thing even smaller, like 4, and I'm going to drag this down and just kind of make some little elements in there. Just as it comes, just as I feel it, you know, nothing too crazy. There you go. And I think I want to have like a bit of a bigger platform. So I'm going to increase this dramatically, lower that down, and I'm just going to add some of the platforms in the foreground. And I'm going to have another cylinder one here, very much bigger, reduce the height again, and have another step added to that. There you go. That looks fairly decent to me. So this is how you added already some kind of rock in the background. It's not looking perfect quite yet, so we are going to do some adjustments. So first of all, to just get the basic shape right, we go to the smooth tool, but make sure again to make it very, 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 very soft. Just so you, because if you make it too strong, it's gonna give you too much of a smooth look, and it basically gets rid of the wonderful rock facade that you just did to make it look natural. Now, also the reason why it doesn't look too natural is because of the top region, which is always the same height, which is really not realistic. So you can do several things, but I'm going to go with the stamp tool again, make it all the way down, and then bring some higher tops in here as well. Just making sure that we have a little bit of difference in, you know, just like this, to make it a bit more interesting looking. There you go. That already looks better. Going to smooth some of these things. And now the rest will be done with some little adjustments. So we are going to go to 2 meters, a little bit stronger. And now we're just painting some of these things as if they were a bit more connected. So just, you know, be careful what you exactly do with the painting, but just make it look as if certain things are connected. So I think this one is a good one that could be connected with the top region. Looks kind of cool. And then on this side, it looks a little bit weird. So I'm just going to drag that out a little. So just give it a bit more strength, you know. That looks already quite a bit better. And the same goes over here. This for me is actually a lot too less powerful in terms of weighting, so there has to be a bit of a triangular support to it. Just keeping that running in here. Very nice, very nice. Look at that, and there you get it, a very nice rock facade. Now the last thing we are doing is we're going to paint this with a lovely rock texture in the middle, just like so, making sure that the most part is going to be rocks, and then we're adding some smooth rock to the lower and the higher part, just like that. Okay, and then we are going to add some grass, but we are going to increase the power, especially here to the sides where it's a little bit more straight, just like that. You know, just giving that a little bit of a green touch where we need it. And this is also where we're going to have some plants later on placed. So just making sure that there is this slight touch of green where it would be, also here on top. Nice. And then we are just going to drag some of the heavy stone on the edges as well, just to give it a bit more, you know, contrast here and there. And if you want to, you can also go in and experiment a little bit with soil, with the dark soil, and just, you know, give a bit more of an interesting look to some edges here and there, just making sure that this gets a bit more contrast. Look at that, looks already pretty sweet. And then the lower ground has some sand as well in here to blend the lower part a little bit nicer in. We'll just drag that all in nice. And then we're going to use the smooth tool, and we're going to sample, which is kind of cool because it just merges the things together a little bit, which is kind of cool, because if you use auto paint, it's going to auto paint what should be on this basically level. But we use sampled. I'm going to make this thing a little bit bigger, and then you can see the texture blends in a little bit more, ever so nice. There you go. There you go. And that's it, guys. Look at that. Perfect. And now we're going to put back in our water, and we're done. Now, this is an easy way how to create landscaping in Planet Zoo, and the whole tutorial only took 22 minutes, including all the controls and making this wonderful rock facade over here. We are going to learn how to make this look even more realistic with the help of stones and so, but we will do this in one of the later episodes. So thank you for watching, and in case you want to help me out and you like the tutorial and it was helpful for you, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. That's a free way to contribute to the channel, to just support me and show the algorithm that you like the content and was helpful. So just click that red button and you are good to go. If you are a bit more generous and you want to help me even more to grow the whole business thing here, then you can even become a member or hit the super thanks, which is also a very nice thing to do if you like the tutorial, but you don't need to. It's totally not mandatory. But in any case, I wish you a wonderful time. Stay safe, everyone. Have a good time. And until the next one, goodbye.